Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome into the studio here at News Channel Nebraska. It is February 29th. It's a Thursday, and I'm your anchor, Andrew Pfeiffer, with the latest headlines from around the state of Nebraska. Coming up this hour on NCN. Fire in central Nebraska continues to rage on, but some snow has assisted efforts for crews up in North Platte. According to a press release, firefighters working on the Betty's Way fire have increased containment to 82%, with 60 firefighters working on the wildfire. Tuesday's weather both helped and hampered crews, with snow and moisture helping with suppression, but high winds making it more difficult. Concerns now turn to the weekend with a potential increase in winds and decrease in relative humidity. The main focus for operations are now on the east area of the fire, where heavy trees continue to burn and put out smoke. Some good news, though: smoke will continue to be visible within the fire footprint, but will not pose risks to the fire line and cause it to escape. Governor Jim Pillen is planning to give the state legislature more time and is willing to call a special session if property taxes are not reduced. The governor expects lawmakers to reduce property taxes by 40% before the session ends in April. Multiple proposals have been offered since the session began, including a potential sales tax increase. Lawmakers are potentially looking to pull funds from state departments to bring the property tax relief down, and Pillen's office said the property taxes are the number one issue Pillen hears when speaking to Nebraskans. A scary moment in the capital city as a convenience store near East Campus in Lincoln was crashed into Wednesday afternoon. Authorities responded to the store's front door just before 2 in the afternoon on Wednesday. The store's front door and front of the car appeared to sustain damage. Thankfully, everyone involved in the crash was okay, and there was no word yet on further details. Authorities in western Nebraska responded to a single vehicle rollover on Wednesday afternoon. It happened east of Lodgepole in Cheyenne County at around 3:30 Wednesday. Authorities say a car was traveling east before going off the road and rolling over. A single occupant of the vehicle was transported from the scene by ambulance. No further details are available. We'll be sure to keep you up to date here on News Channel Nebraska. Fire in a Lincoln grocery store caused employees and customers to evacuate on Wednesday. The fire was reported just after 11:30 on Wednesday morning at Russ's Market in northeast Lincoln. Authorities say the fire was contained to an exterior cooler and no injuries were reported. A customer in the store says there was smoke in the aisles before they were asked to evacuate. One of Nebraska's 5 Republicans on Capitol Hill is facing a serious challenge in the May primary. NCN's Joe Jordan examines a Metro fight where Ukraine is front and center.
As the war in Ukraine enters year number 3 and Ukraine looks for U.S. help,
there's a real divide in the Republican Party over Ukraine.
That divide highlighted in the GOP race for Congress between incumbent Don Bacon and Dan Fry. Fry running again after losing a closer than many expected primary 10 years ago to then Congressman Lee Terry.
You're opposed to funding for Ukraine?
At this point in time, until I see a better reason to fund Ukraine's borders, or until I see a significant reason that we should be more interested in defending Ukraine's borders than our own, absolutely, shut it down.
I think it's our national security interest that Ukraine remain independent. You can't turn a blind eye when Russia invades a neighbor and is bombing cities. I mean, we got to stand up against that. And I think we learned that in 1939, right? We should. You can't ignore a tyrant.
The argument for funding Ukraine is Russia knocks off Ukraine, then they go to Poland or wherever else is next.
Right now, what's happening to this nation with our borders being overrun, we are being weakened from the inside out. This world is a safer, better place when America is strong and free.
Do you believe if Russia takes over Ukraine, Poland or something else, someone else in NATO is next?
I'm worried about the Baltics. I mean, you got Putin threatening the Estonian prime minister this past week, right? He's calling them renegade states. Is he going to invade or not? Who knows what's in his mind, but the fact is he called them renegade states implies he thinks they belong to Russia, but they're renegades. He's also been pretty clear about wanting to capture the area just west of Ukraine, called Moldavia. So I don't think it's the end of it. I don't think Ukraine's the end of it. And by the way, China's watching.
You don't worry about a bigger, stronger, more aggressive Russia?
I worry more about what's happening internally and within the borders of our own country.
Bacon and Fry square off in the May 14th primary. In Omaha, Joe Jordan, News Channel, Nebraska.
Well, how much is too much when it comes to taxing cigarettes in Nebraska? Governor Jim Pillen has a big jump in mind. NCN's Joe Jordan has our preview.
There's not much, if any, debate on the health hazards of smoking, but that's not the case when it comes to taxing cigarettes.
We can add $2. We charge 64 cents if we charge $2.64.
But Pillen's getting pushback from his own side. I'm Joe Jordan. We're smoking out cigarette taxes, coming up soon on News Channel, Nebraska.
Primary election this May is the first time Nebraskans will be required to show photo identification to vote. It's a reality that has a mayor candidate in southeast Nebraska plotting his plan to comply with the new law. Dan Swanson has this story.
Running for mayor of Nebraska City takes some planning for the visually impaired Tim Morgan, but voting for himself and securing the vote of his wife Jill could be the toughest hurdle. Otoe County Clerk Jenny Basinger says this May's primary election is the first time that a photo identification is required when applying for early ballots or when voting at the polls in person.
So voters will need to be prepared to offer photo ID at the polling places.
Morgan and his wife do not have driver's licenses or military credentials or passports or tribal cards. Morgan plans to use the ID he got as a student decades ago at the State School for the Blind. In order for his wife to vote, she will need to get a birth certificate from the state and a marriage license to explain her name change. Morgan said the duty to vote is worth the effort.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, you don't have people going in and whatever, double voting. And
the Nebraska City couple is reaching out to the League of Human Dignity for assistance in getting the paperwork needed for a state ID.
Once you get the ID in your hand, you can use it for years to come.
Others may already have driver's licenses, but forget to bring them along on Election Day.
If there's time, if you show up early enough in the day, as you show up there, they'll ask for your name. And if you do have an ID, there's time in the day that you could go home and get that ID and come back and present the ID and you could vote normally. If there's not, or you don't have ID, you could still vote provisionally and vote that way. And then you have 7 days to bring your ID to the election office following the election for that ballot to count.
The Nebraska Secretary of State is conducting a statewide information campaign to raise public awareness. A media strategy, including television, radio, and static billboards, is scheduled to begin March 11th. From Nebraska City, I'm Dan Swanson, News Channel, Nebraska.
Washington is in shutdown countdown mode again as Congress faces the first of 2 government funding deadlines on Friday, March 1st. Karen Cava has more on the shutdown and what may be impacted.
Congressional leaders racing the clock again.
I think it's pretty safe to say we all agree we need to avoid a government shutdown.
We made it so clear that we can't have the shutdown because it hurts so many people in so many different ways, even for a short period of time.
And households wondering how to prepare. In January, lawmakers passed another short-term government funding deal with 2 new deadlines on March 1st and March 8th. Without a deal, departments impacted by this week's deadline include transportation, housing and urban development, veterans affairs, agriculture, and energy. Operations critical to public safety would continue during a shutdown, so employees like USDA food inspectors and TSA workers and air traffic controllers would stay on the job, but without pay. The Department of Agriculture says recipients of SNAP food stamp benefits and pregnant women and new moms enrolled in the WIC program would receive March payments. VA policy says veteran health care would not be affected and benefits like housing and pensions would continue. But services like career counseling and the transition assistance program for service members moving into civilian life would not be available. Meanwhile, next week's deadline includes the IRS, potentially scaling back the number of IRS employees on the job as tax filing season approaches its peak. In Washington, I'm Karen Cava.
The longest-serving state senator is stepping down as the Republican leader in the Senate. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who turned 82 last week, will step down in November, but will still serve in the Senate. The Kentucky Republican announced the decision on the floor Wednesday. McConnell said he had total clarity about the decision, and he said his decision came following the death of his wife, Elaine's youngest sister, in a traffic accident this month. Chick-fil-A has recalled its Polynesian sauce due to allergy concerns. The fast food restaurant says cups may contain wheat and soy allergies. Chick-fil-A advises customers who were handed the dipping containers from February 14th from February 27th to throw them out. In the last year, home insurance has skyrocketed, with some cases rising as much as 40%. Jen Sullivan has more on the price hike and what homeowners can do to save money.
When disaster strikes, home insurance is there to help cover some of the costs.
Your home is one of your largest assets, and in the insurance industry, it's wise and prudent to protect that asset.
But the price of that protection is becoming more expensive. Home insurance broker Travis Hodges says he's seeing an average increase of 27% year over year. And in some cases, the cost of insuring your home can go even higher.
We've heard as much as 40.
So what's causing the price hike? Hodges says there are a few reasons. 1. Changing weather patterns and events, such as tornadoes and wildfires. 2. The cost of materials has gone up, so it costs more to fix any damage. 3. Property values have risen. Let's look at those numbers for a moment. In January, the median home sale price was $379,100, according to the National Association of Realtors. That's 5.1% higher than January of last year, and it's the 7th month in a row home prices have gone up.
Everything else has gone up. Insurance has just mirrored that and been proportionate.
So what can you do to save money? If you're willing to increase your deductible by as much as $500, Hodges says you can save anywhere from 15 to 20% and shop around for different policies.
We actually do that proactively for our clients. Every time there's a renewal, we let them know what other options are out there.
And remember, flood insurance is a separate plan. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Metro Chiropractic in Fairbury donated $3 for every three-pointer made by the Jeffs and the Lady Jeffs in this season, and the total of three-pointers was $136 on the season, which added up to $408. The two players recognized from the team was sophomore James Martin, who made 20, and junior Izzy Ald, who made 22 three-point shots. The donation goes to support the Fairbury Booster Club. Metro Chiropractic has been donating money from three-pointers for nearly 20 years, which has went to things like the athletic complex, Fairbury Youth Hoops program, and even funding the Fairbury mascot.
Oh, it's been a fun way of advertising. You go out to the restaurant and people will say, "Man, that game cost you a lot of money last night," or "Izzy cost you $12," or whatever it might be. So it's been fun to get the advertising. Kind of gets the community involved by hearing the updates and hearing the commercials on the radio.
The president of the Fairbury Booster Club, Angie Judd, accepted the check from Metro Chiropractic along with the two players. For just the 8th time in the lottery's history, the Mega Millions jackpot will surpass $600 million. The $607 million payout would be a nice investment of a $2 ticket. Mega Millions holds the distinction of being the only lottery game to award 5 different jackpots worth more than $1 billion. And according to Mega Millions, the odds of winning the jackpot, an easy one in just over $300 million. Thank you so much for watching News Channel Nebraska. We have plenty of more updates to cover throughout the rest of the day. Stick around for more news updates and check us out on Twitter, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm Andrew Pfeiffer saying so long and goodbye.